right, let's talk shop. A little bit of Tabletop Tuesday, right? I hope everything's framed correctly. Don't have the TV on today. Just a nice little workshop. I honestly think, hot take, that players deal with filler and they deal with road episodes far better than game masters do. I don't know. You're going to say, I do road episodes really well. I love it when we have all this time and, narrative and everything. That's fine when you're writing the game. My question is, when you run an adventure module, something that's supposed to be there, exciting, and give you structure, are you actually able to translate that and make it engaging for your group? There's a difference when you're the one writing the game versus taking something from an adventure module and still running it in a way that understands and comprehends the world around you. For example, a lot of the stuff in the Hoard of the Dragon Queen, which we talked about in another long form video, a lot of that stuff wasn't even terrible on the road. It depends on how you run it. The module gave you everything you needed to do to be on the road correctly and have engaging and memorable things. And no, you don't go exactly by the book, but you can embellish, you can have fun. Make it fun for your players. What motivates your players? And that's why I think the players deal with it a lot better. Players just go, okay, I'm on the road. I will engage with what we have. When players say I'm bored of being on the road, what they're saying is my game master did not make it engaging to travel from one place to another. And that's a big problem. Well, how do we make it engaging? Okay, what are your players' motivations? Do those motivations. Done. Okay, you want more than that. All right. I had groups that were motivated by power leveling, right? How do you deal with min-maxers? Well, you build worlds where they have to build their skill. I went through and said, fine, you want to go through and be above godly strength? Then you need to do things like lift meteorites and things once you got strong enough that human weights could no longer, give you an exercise. And the player did. It wasn't until about level, 15 or 17 where he really got overpowered and completely min-maxed, but I had drug it out all the way through that, and he was playing Barbarian. So there's ways to do it, right? Downtime activities. If you're not stringing people through combat encounters, which you should never just string combat encounters, and we'll get over that either in a minute or in another video. What really needs to happen is you have combat, right? But not right off the bat. You need the trip to start dwindling resources first. Combat, when everybody's ready for it, isn't fun. There's no pressure. There's no engagement. And guess what? Everyone expects it. Stop being predictable. Go through and actually bring people together around like, hey, your wagon actually is losing a wheel. You got one wheel, but it's already half damaged from just the horrible weather you've been dealing with. Okay, so do we save the wheel and scout ahead on foot and see if there's terrain? Right now, it's the players versus the environment, not the players versus an enemy or a player versus the GM. This is now essentially what you have is a puzzle fight. It used to be called like a situation encounter, right? So you have a situation encounter where they're not against anything except for just natural effects of being on the road. Do you think it's odd that everybody loves road trips, right? They love going other places and they have things that pass the time there. And yet people really hate, not just when my phone vibrates, but they really hate doing it in D&D. So that means that it's not a player problem. Some people really do hate road trips, and I get that. But typically, they're not the players that I have an issue with in D&D. Because those people are just in it for escapism in the first place. So, all that being said. Okay, but what about things like Hoard of the Dragon Queen, where it gives you just random encounter tables and all these things? Make them a situation encounter. All right, bandits. You get bandits right off the gate, right? Okay, you don't have to run it as a combat encounter. Your players could walk up and see the bandits on the road. You see them ahead. You know they're getting ready to ambush you. Everybody's like, oh, this is lame. I guess I'll get ready, prepare my weapons. And then, all of a sudden, there's a loud battle cry. And a couple of people that they were holding up before you, ahead of you on the road, come screaming down, having broken out from their attackers and are now meeting the rear guard. Okay, players now go, well, what do we do? Right? It could be a daring battle and both of them kind of fall down, defeated the last two remaining. They fall down kind of on the ground, just barely able to kick and scratch at each other. And now the players have to okay, what's going on here, right? Who's got the story? This now becomes a social and situation encounter with whatever puzzle mechanic or anything else you want to have, but it doesn't have to be combat. Even things like dragons on the road, how well can you hide? What's your method of crossing a bog that doesn't have a way across by foot? What skills do you want to bring up? Do you want to craft things? Artificers on the road. Man, I encourage, anytime I have a group with an artificer in it, get a cart, make it a mobile workshop, and that way everybody can get items made while you're on the road. Done. And because they're not exerting themselves, because they're in a mobile workshop, they literally won't need a long rest. This engages everybody. Who wants to learn some artificer bits? Who wants to learn how to make one thing that they can then make on their own? Why not? Get the players that want the items involved in the crafting checks to make them, so that way they can repair it themselves without going back to the artificer. Then everybody feels like they've gained something. And why not? What are you really losing by giving the players something slightly more? And I find that when you give the players something slightly more like this, just little things, they appreciate it way more and they use it way more than any magical item that you're going to give them that you're going to worry that they're going to break the game. Rule number 2, magic items. In my games, if I want the players to have fun with magic items, like in one-shots, but I don't want them to break a game that I have because we need to be on a beaten path, I go through and I give them false or forgery magical items. They still work as kind of intended, but maybe they only have like D6 uses left or D4 uses left before they break and disintegrate. And yes, you can do that with magic items and all that, and everything else should be kind of... But I mean actually making things like the immovable rods, right? If I give my players an immovable rod, it's going to have one use remaining. It gives them the ability to do something really cool with it, and then they have to think of other ways to complete their tasks. The certain things that I don't make, a foldable boat is amazing, and you need to just have it, I think, in every campaign, because almost no one takes it anyways. And when they do, I had a player, okay, foldable boat, and man, did he use it. Right? Imagine this. Imagine, if you will, a foldable boat, a desert, a water jug that puts out immeasurable gallons of water, and the ability to shape water and move water with magic. I know I kind of broke away from the Rod Sterling, right? Imagine, if you will. I don't know. Imagine, if you will. I prefer the scary door. I don't know. My voice isn't built like that, I don't think. I've had this on the wrong setting this entire time, haven't I? That's nice. Imagine, if you will. What's that? Imagine, if you will, a desert, a foldable boat, a flask that puts out immeasurable volumes of water, and the ability to control water with magic. Yes, that's what the player did. They had no other form of transportation across the desert with the party. The foldable boat was just big enough to hold the entire party. And, you know, imagine my shock and disbelief when he just popped out a foldable boat, put it down in the sand, got everybody inside it, and I didn't know if he was going to pull out a bed sheet and try to do like a sand cruiser. That's a lot of weight to do that with. You know, uncorked the flask, dumped it into the sand to make wet sand, which then had water in the sand. And how can I tell a player, no, you can't use your shape and control water to control water that's in the sand, right? Because the coolest power from like Avatar: The Last Airbender is, with the water bending, was blood bending, right? Everybody, that's cool because there's water in it. Everything has to, like, everything to me follows a logic like that. So my disbelief when they have a pad of wet sand below their foldable boat now, and between the multiple casters, they start concentrating together, and it was too cool to say no to, because yeah, making the sand like water waves with the water in the sand to move the foldable boat like a power boat across a desert to get to the mountains is probably the most innovative thing I've ever seen a player do. That was true thinking there. This is from a player that started a cult that basically goes in all of my games now, because it's a cult that's like a drinking party all the time, and it's just wonderful. Same player, just wonderful actions. So really, players deal with the road far better than game masters do. Build your worlds correctly. When you're playing other people's worlds, understand the world before you start playing. And sometimes it's hard to read things for what's underneath the text. I think we've lost that, as we don't read in depth like we used to. We don't look at subtext and context the way that we used to. We are working with what my teachers used to call on the surface details and evidence, which I was always told wasn't enough to actually get what you're supposed to be getting. So if we just take these lessons that we can learn from old adventure modules, take a look at my other long form videos, subscribe would really help us out. But we're doing this so that you can have better games. We're doing this so that everybody can understand each other a little bit better, and we can actually understand what is causing the hangups, the pauses, the slog, the crunch where it just grinds everything to a halt. If you're in the Auburn area, come on down to the Final Boss Gaming Lounge. Nothing is sponsored by them. I'm doing all this out of my own pocket because I love doing what I do. I hope to see you in the next session. Thanks for being at my table.